Let's take a look at this passage. It starts off saying, in the reading workbook, revolutions are sudden to the unthinking only. So we're going to get a lot of these, actually. Well, not by a lot, I mean it's happened a few times on the actual test. We're talking about the French Revolution. So when we're discussing the French Revolution, for some reason, all the passages, they're passages that express their concern about what's happening in France. Okay, so it's not. So when if you think about the French Revolution, usually, it's really, it's kind of a, I don't know, it's not an ideal mindset to be in, but usually people think of it as in terms of good or bad, right? Black and white. And people characterize the French Revolution as good in their head. They're always thinking about, okay, the French Revolution, it was a pivotal event for democracy, in the history of democracy and that kind of thing. But when it comes to SAT passages, when they discuss the French Revolution, it's usually from neighboring countries, and they express their concern about what's happening, and they say, I don't want that happening in my country, kind of thing. That's usually how they view the French Revolution, and this passage is a prime example of that. Okay, so let's take a look. This person discusses the French Revolution. Okay, he's discussing the French Revolution. If you can see from his name, well, yeah, actually it does say here that he's an English person, right? Okay, so so you can guess that it's going to be along those lines. Like, well, what it's going to be discussing is his concerns about the French Revolution. So let's take a look. Revolutions are sudden to the unthinking only. Okay, instead of just saying, he could have simplified this, but it's rather a stylistic choice. Okay, what he wants to say is revolutions are not sudden, if you think about it, right? Think about it. Revolutions are sudden to the unthinking only. So revolutions are sudden to the people who do not think. He's talking in this conditional, right? So if you can think, revolutions are not sudden, right? The contrapositive, right? So you can do this. Revolutions, not sudden, right? That's how you can simplify the sentence in terms of annotating it, right? So revolutions are not sudden. Okay, so probably what is he going? What is he going to say? He's probably going to elaborate on that idea, right? If I say, for example, studying for the SAT is stupid, right? If I say that, people would expect me to elaborate on that, right? Same here. It's an incomplete idea. He needs to elaborate on that, talk about why it's not sudden, or what he means by that, or what are the consequences that we need, what are the consequences of that. So we need to go somewhere from here. So this is his incomplete idea here first. Okay, so revolutions are not sudden, and then it says strange rumblings and confused noises still precede these earthquakes. Okay, so what do these earthquakes refer to? It's a compressive noun, right? So what do these refer to? Revolutions. That's our only possible option. Why? Because it's a plural compressive noun. So what does this refer to? Well, probably a plural noun that's been mentioned before. He's saying, what does it mean, precede? Yeah, something comes before. So if I say A precedes B, it's like this. A comes before B, right? A comes before B. So he's saying strange rumblings and confused noises. Okay, so let's just grab rumblings and noises. Rumblings and noises come before earthquakes. Okay, so now he's talking figuratively, right? It's not he doesn't mean literal earthquakes, right? So he's saying revolutions are kind of like these earthquakes, but usually there's some kind of rumblings and noises that come before that. So he's strengthening his point using this analogy here, right? And hurricanes, right? So he calls the revolutions earthquakes and hurricanes. So what's the connotation that you get, right? Right from the get-go. Earthquake, hurricane, something good or bad? I would say it's something pretty bad, or at least something very turbulent, right? Of the moral world, okay? So what's our first idea? Revolutions are not sudden, right? Revolutions are not sudden. And you kind of You get that idea. I mean, you get a sense of what he means by that. He says there are. I can say something like this. I would even go so far as to say signs happen before this, right? So, like, what he means, they're not sudden. It means there are usually signs that come before this, right? So that's how you should think about it. Okay, the process of revolution in France has been dreadful. Okay, there we go. So we see his attitude. His attitude towards the revolution is that it's not good. It's dreadful, right? So this is something that you do need to remember. Okay, so is this going off of the same idea? Are dreadful and not sudden the same thing? Are they the same thing? Dreadful and not sudden? No. Okay, so that's our second idea, right? Okay. Process of revolution in France. Okay, so the revolution in France, dreadful. And then what does he say? And should. Okay, so should. So this is a prescription, right? So he's saying this should lead us to something. So what it should cause us to examine with an anxious eye the motives and manners. Okay, so we need to consider the motives and manners. Okay, motives and manners of who? Of those people. Okay, so there are those people. Right? Okay, so it's not good, first of all, right? It's dreadful. But another thing that he says is that it should cause us to examine the motive of certain people, right? I don't know who these people are yet. I didn't read it, right? But cause us to think about why they do it, right? I don't know who these people are. We need to see who these people are, right? I didn't define those yet. Okay, so who are those people? Those whose conducts and opinions seem calculated to forward a similar event in our country. Okay, similar to what? Similar event to what? To the French Revolution. Okay, so similar to so there are people who want to forward meaning what? Forward meaning, cause, I guess. They want to start something. They want to start a revolution in our country. So those people, who are they? Those people who want to start a revolution in our country. Where's our country? Okay, England. Right. So these people, they want to start a revolution in England. Right. Okay. So let's take a look. The oppositionists. Okay, so the oppositionists to things as they are. So these people, what do they oppose? Things as they are. What do you mean things as they are?
Dividing into many in different classes.
What?
Dividing into many in different classes.
No.
Oh.
Things as they are. Literally things as they are, right? The status quo, right? So what do these people oppose? The status quo, right? So who are the oppositionists? these people, right? So these people oppose the status quo. They want to change things up, are divided into many and different classes. Okay, so these people are, so we have several of these, right? I don't know how many there's going to be, but now, how should you take in this passage? This passage is going to be very easy, right? Why? Because it said they divided into different classes. Then we're probably going to talk about the different classes. So you should be able to guess that by now, okay? So different classes, we're probably going to be talking about them. If you did not number these different classes, what are you doing? Okay, so number them. We're probably going to be talking about different classes of these people who want to forward a similar event to the French Revolution in England. To delineate them, what does delineate mean? Huh? Okay. To delineate them with an unflattering accuracy may be delicate, but it is a necessary task. Okay, so we need to do this. Whenever a passage says something is necessary, that's always really, really, really important. Okay, we talked about this yesterday. Why would you write something? The reason why you would write something is to advocate that we need something, right? If you want to say we need something, that's why you would be writing this in the first place, okay? So this part, what's necessary? We want to delineate them. Who are them? The oppositionists, okay? So we want to accurately delineate them. And then in order that, and then he justifies himself. Why do we need to do this? In order that we may enlighten or at least be aware of the misguided men, right? Who are the misguided men? Okay, we only have one group of people that we're talking about. He's just rephrasing this over and over again, right? So we need to be aware of the oppositionists, what they think, who have enlisted under the banners of liberty from no principles or with bad ones, right? So there is this banner of liberty, figuratively, right? There is this banner of liberty. They're all grouping around it, but I mean, if you see this word and you think, oh, you know, then is it good? I mean, come on, like. These people, he says, are oppositionists to things as they are, and he does not want that to happen, so we need to know about them. But, I mean, these people, they do agitate for liberty. That doesn't mean that they're in the good, okay? He's not portraying them in a good light or whatever, right? Okay, so these people, they want liberty, but they have no principles, or they have really bad principles, okay? So what is this passage going to be about? He's going to talk about the different classes. You should be able to sense that in the first paragraph. Okay? So we're going to be talking about the different classes of who? The people who want to forward a revolution, who want to start a revolution. Okay, let's take a look. First class among the professed. Okay, what does profess mean? Yeah. In this context, yes, professed friends would be, yeah, according to them. But profess itself means it's similar. I mean, profess is just to say, right? Profess, or I mean, make a statement and that kind of thing, right? So they say they are friends of liberty. So in this case, it would be Taching, right? So the first class among the professed friends of liberty. So they say they are friends of liberty, okay? So this is our first class. So here, right? Okay, so let's see who they are, right? So what do we need to I mean, I'm just looking for a key word that can characterize them very easily. That's what I'm looking for here. It's composed of men who, unaccustomed to the labor of thorough investigation, so they do not investigate well, right? So they're not accustomed to thorough investigation. They don't investigate well, and not particularly oppressed by the burdens of state. What does the state mean? No. What does state mean?
It can either refer to like the country or probably the situation.
Well, it's not talking about the situation. It wouldn't. It can't be. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Burdens of state. I mean, it would say condition, not state in that case. Government or country, right? Okay. So they're not oppressed, right? They're not oppressed. They don't investigate, and they're not oppressed, right? Are yet impelled by their feelings to disapprove of its. What does it refer to? What are my possible options? State. That's our only possible option. Okay, so if you're not thinking about these things, you're not reading. You're not reading. You're just looking at the words. You're just looking at a bunch of words, and you're just saying, okay, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? That's not reading. Like, how, if you did not think about this, you can't understand anything, right? Pronouns and compressive nouns. I mean, we talked about this in the very beginning. That's like your foundation for reading, okay? So they are caused by their feelings to disapprove of the government's grosser depravities, right? Okay, so here's the thing, right? Contrast here, right? So they don't investigate. They're not particularly oppressed, right? So they have good lives, relatively, right? They don't have terrible lives, right? They're not oppressed, but they don't investigate. Yet, because of their feelings, they disapprove of the state's depravities, of the state's faults, of the government's faults, right? So they don't have bad lives, but they say, oh, our government sucks, right? Our government's doing all these things wrong, right? And prepare to give an indolent, what does indolent mean? Lazy vote in favor of reform. Okay, so these are kind of the words, okay? So feelings. Okay? So they don't investigate, they're not oppressed, but because of their feelings, they disapprove of the state, and they give an indolent vote, a lazy vote in favor of reform, right? You see who these people are? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot in Korea. Their sensibilities braced by the cooperation of fixed principles. Okay, their sensibilities not braced by the cooperation of fixed principles. They don't have fixed principles. They offer no sacrifices. Okay, no sacrifices to the divinity of active virtue. Their political opinions depend with weathercock uncertainty. Right, so their opinions are really uncertain on the winds of rumor. Right? Yeah, just rumor, and they change their opinion. Sounds like Koreans. A lot. Okay, so now that we've read this entire thing, this is all about the first class of people, right? Okay, so who are these first class of people? They're not particularly affected by the state's faults or whatever, right? But they just, it's because of their feelings, right? It's because of their feelings, they just say, hey, let's change the government, right? Hey, let's change the government, and they don't make any sacrifices, right? And their opinions are so uncertain. It's heavily affected by rumor, right? Okay, so you see that? Okay, so what should we do? I mean, if I were you, I mean, you could either do this. You could either do this, circle some of the keywords that I did. I mean, and you can get a good sense. I mean, or you can kind of write it down next to this paragraph, like a few notes. What would you write down? I would say, okay, so these people, they're, what is it? They don't investigate, but it's mostly their feelings, right? Governed by their feelings. And they have that uncertainty, right? So they're swayed easily, right? That blow from France, right? Okay, so they just heard from France that, oh, hey, there's a revolution in France, right? There's a revolution. Why don't we have our own revolution, right? On the report of French victories, they blaze into republicanism. Okay, so I'm not going to read this. Why? Detail, right? He's just talking about an example. He said they are swayed easily, and now he says, okay, so if they hear about French victories, they're like, oh, let's go republicanism. At a tale of French excesses, they darken into aristocrats, right? So they go from here to here, like weathercock uncertainty, right? These dough-baked patriots, right? Dough-baked patriots, I don't know exactly what he means by dough-baked, are not, however, useless. But it doesn't really matter because this is just him using this compressive noun. So he's still talking about this first class. But he says they're not useless. So what does that mean? They have a use. Okay, so that's a point that you definitely need to take care of. Because I thought this paragraph was going to be dedicated entirely to simply characterizing these people. But obviously it's not just that. There's something else that you need to know, okay? So they have a use, right? So how can they be of use? This oscillation meaning going back and forth, right? Oscillation of political opinion will retard, what does retard mean? It's not a retard. What does retard mean? To slow, right? To slow the day of revolution. Oh, okay. So they can, like, actually, because of these people, the process of revolution can slow down, right? And it will operate as a preventive to its excesses, right? So they will, I want to get this then. Slow the day of the revolution. Indecisiveness. Oh, this seems like such a perfect word. When I was reading this paragraph, I really haven't been thinking about this when in the previous paragraph, but it feels like this word characterizes them so well. So these are the kinds of words that you should hold on to, right? Hold on to these words and say, okay, first class of people, I would say they're very indecisive. You can do that, right? Of character, though the effect of timidity, right? So it's just because they're timid. It's almost always associated with benevolence. Is almost always associated with benevolence. Yeah, so just being indecisive, timid, that's associated with benevolence. What does this mean? I kind of agree with this, actually. You know how in Korea, why am I always bashing on Korea? But you know how people say, what does it mean? What does it mean? If people say, you're 착해, what does that mean? Well, it's okay. What does being nice mean? No, that's not. That's 겸손. Usually, when people say, "Oh, you know, he's really 착해," or "he or she's really 착해," it kind of means that they're really indecisive and they're kind of timid. If you have like a very, I mean, if you're very forward with your opinion, people are not gonna say you're 착해. If you don't have an opinion, it's like, okay, I'll do that, and you're easily swayed, people say, oh, 착하다. Right? So that's what he's saying. Right? Wilder features characterize the second class. Okay, so now this is the second class. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, actually, why don't we just say they are indecisive, right? The first class. First class is indecisive, but there was also a point that we need to know, right? They could actually slow the revolution. So that's kind of a good thing, right? All right, so second class, who are these people? They listen only to the inflammatory harangues of some mad-headed enthusiast. What's this, harangue? Like a rant or some like hateful speech. Inflammatory harangues of some mad-headed enthusiast. Huh. Sounds like somebody. Like a certain president certain president right now. And imbibe, not, well, I wasn't talking about Korea, so don't say, oh, this. I mean, for some reason, it's okay. Why is it okay to bash Trump? Everybody's okay with bashing Trump, but nobody's okay with bashing Moon Jae-in for some reason. I mean, I don't have a stance, but anyway. Some mad-headed enthusiast and imbibe. What does imbibe mean? Drink from them poison, not food, rage. Okay, like figuratively, they drink something, imbibe poison. So they listen to all the hateful speeches and they drink that, right? They take that in, and what is it? Oh, I think that's a good word we can use to characterize these group of people, right? Unillumined by philosophy and stimulated to a lust of revenge by aggravated wrongs, they would make the altar of freedom stream with blood while the grass grew in the desolated halls of justice. Ah, pretty easy. This group of this group of people, it's pretty easy. Like that's an easy read, I feel like. So I would say, okay, rage, right? They're just really angry people. They take in all the hateful speeches and stuff, right? Okay, we contemplate those principles with horror. Okay, so this is I've seen this exact phrase twice on the actual SAT. We contemplate some idea or some principles or something with horror. We contemplate something with horror. Okay, so it showed up twice. What does that mean? It means, yeah, we don't want that, right? Simple, right? We don't want that. We look at that. We look at that in a very negative light. Okay, okay. So those principles are what? This, right? The rage and the revenge, that kind of thing, right? So he's saying, yeah, really, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. Yet they possess a kind of wild justice, well calculated to spread them among the grossly ignorant. All right, so they want to kind of spread that idea to the ignorant people. Spread to the ignorant. That's what they want to do. To unenlightened minds, there are terrible charms in the idea of retribution. Right. So for unenlightened minds, so for stupid people, and not calling anybody stupid, that's what he's saying, like unenlightened minds, to stupid people, there are charms in the idea of revenge. Revenge sounds good to stupid people, right? However, savagely, it be inculcated. Wow, so many big words in this passage, okay? In terms of language, this passage is really difficult, I would say. But, I mean, it's not a difficult passage, though, because, the point itself is so evident. Anyway, these are, inculcate, you do need to know. They use this pretty often. What does it mean, inculcate?
To implant a statement by constantly repeating it.
Okay, that's pretty good. So think of it as teach, but stronger, right? So the idea of retribution inculcated, right? It doesn't matter how savagely you inculcate the ideas of retribution, there are still charms to it. That's what he's saying to these people. Okay? The groans of the oppressors make fearful yet pleasant music to the ear of him whose mind is darkness and into hope. Okay, so, right. So, this is why he's not so fond of this, this idea, right? Because why? So, he kind of talked about, okay, why? Why do you not like these people? Why do I hate these people? I mean, well, not hate, but why do I contemplate these principles with horror? Because for the unenlightened mind, these ideas can seem really appealing, right? Can seem appealing to the dumb, right? So dumb people will be like, oh, revenge, yeah, let's go and take revenge, right? So they can sway these ignorant people, right? Okay, third class. There is a third class among the friends of freedom who possess not the wavering character of the first, yeah, right? So he kind of sums it up for us anyway, right? So even if you did not, even if you were unsure of the first and second paragraph, he kind of rephrases it here. He says they have a wavering character, right? That was our first group, right? Indecisive, wavering character of the first description, nor the ferocity, right? Rage, revenge, ferocity, last delineated. They pursue the interest of freedom steadily, but with narrow and self-centering views. I think I got it. So this sounds pretty easy too, right? So these people are very self-centered. They're not thinking about other people. They're thinking about themselves, okay? They anticipate with exultation the abolition of privileged orders. Okay, I don't see how these two things are related just yet. It's okay. Right? So how does self-centering mean? I mean, self-centering, so you want to abolish privileged orders? What, I don't get it. It's okay, I don't have the coronavirus. And of acts, they persecute by exclusion from the right of citizenship. Okay? Whatever is above them, they are most willing to drag down. Oh, I think I get it, right? So they don't like people who are seemingly above them, right? Because they're very self-centered, right? So if they're above them, they want to drag them down, right? Above, they want to drag down. But every proposed alteration that would elevate their poorer brethren, okay, they rank among the dreams of visionaries. Oh, okay. So how do they treat people above them? They say, we want to bring them down. But if someone proposes an idea, proposes a change to bring lower people up, what do they say? That's too idealistic, right? That's too idealistic. As if there were anything in the superiority of lure to gentlemen so mortifying in the barrier, so fatal to happiness and the consequences as the more real distinction of master and servant. What are you doing? I mean, like he's just rambling. He's just going on and on. I mean, you got the point, right? If you got the point, just hold on to that point and look for some transition words. I mean, if you need to know something, you will see that distinctive change in tone. So if you were to spend a lot of time reading this, you would be going about this passage in the wrong way, okay? Anyway, so let's take a look here. I mean, there's a rhetorical question here, so I think this is a good place to kind of resume. Wherein am I made worse by my ennobled neighbor? So how am I made worse? How am I made worse by my ennobled neighbor? What does it mean, ennobled? If you have an in front of a word, that means make, right? Someone who's made noble, right? Someone who has nobility, someone who's the upper class, right? So this is a rhetorical question. So this is the author making a counter argument to the third group of people, right? So he's saying, yeah, so what if there's a lot of people with privilege, right? Does that make you worse, right? Does that affect you in any way? That's what he's saying, right? Do the childish titles of aristocracy detract from my domestic comforts? Yeah. So just because someone is an aristocrat and someone's not, does that take away my comforts? Does that take away my bed at home? Right? That's what he's saying. Or prevent my intellectual acquisitions? Yeah. Right? So these two things are obviously things that the author think is important, right? Domestic comforts and intellectual acquisitions. But those institutions of society which, okay, so before we go on, third class of people, who are they? Self-centered, right? Self-centered, and how did he, what's the important point that goes along with self-centered? They want to bring down people who are above them, and they do not want to give an advantage to people below them, right? But the author offers a counter argument to them, right? What does he say? So he says, well, you know, are you made worse because of the aristocracy? You know, someone's higher class than you. Does that take away your domestic comfort and your chance for intellectual acquisitions? That doesn't affect you in any practical way. That's what the author is saying, right? It really doesn't have any effect, right? So class does not affect me, right? So class itself does not affect me. That's what he's saying. Those institutions of society which should condemn me to the necessity of 12 hours daily toll. Okay, so you do need to read this. Why? Because there's a but, right? Okay, so this is a point. What kind of point is he making? There are institutions of society, all right? So institutions can either be kind of policy or some literally institution as you know it, like school or government. So there are those institutions, right? What will they do? They will condemn me to the necessity of 12 hours daily toil. They will make me work 12-hour days. I work more than 12 hours a day. They condemn them to that, right? That would make my soul a slave. Oh, so that he doesn't like, right? Do you see that contrast? So he says, class doesn't affect me. What affects me is a system that forces me to work 12 hours. That's making me a slave, right? So he's not saying class is a problem. He's saying there's something else. There's a system that requires me to work a lot. That is what matters. You get it? Okay. And sink the rational being in the mere animal, right? Okay, so that's talking about the negative effects, right? You turn this into this. It is a mockery of our fellow creatures' wrongs to call them equal in rights. Okay, so it's mocking people. It's making fun of people if we call them equal in rights, when by the bitter compulsion of their wants, we make them inferior to us in all that can soften the heart or dignify the understanding. Yeah, so, you know, it would be a mockery. It would be mocking someone, making fun of someone if you do this and just say, oh, we have all the same rights, right? We have no class, but still you need to work 12-hour work days to make a living. And on the other hand, I won't work at all and still make a good living, right? That is a mockery. That's what he's saying, right? So class itself doesn't have any practical effect. This is me just inferring from that, right? So class itself doesn't have any effect, but you know, there's something else that matters. You know, a system that requires some people to work more, have worse lives, right? Let us not say this is the work of time. Okay, so let's not just say, we'll do that later, or time will change it. Let's not be that irresponsible. So this is a prescription, so I do want to get this, right? That it is impracticable at present. So some people might say, hey, we can't do that right now. That would be too impractical. Unless we each in our individual capacities do strenuously and perseveringly endeavor to diffuse among our domestics those comforts and that illumination, which, okay, so they among our domestics, those comforts. So these are the things that he thinks is important, right? So everybody should be able to afford domestic comforts and intellectual acquisitions, illumination, right? Are the true equalizers of men. These are the true equalizers. Ah, okay. So what does he think is the true equalizer? You know, domestic comforts and intellectual acquisitions, the chance for intellectual acquisitions, right? You know, people should be comfortable, right? They should lead relatively comfortable, pretty comfortable lives, and they should have a chance to learn, right? That's what's important. Class, you know, that's just a childish title. That's what he's saying, right? That's kind of like his counter argument to these three groups, these people, right? So how is this passage structured? So he says there are signs of a revolution, but that, you know, this thing isn't important in retrospect. If you look back, does this matter? Not really. I mean, maybe you will get a question. Okay, maybe you will get a question asking, hey, what does the author imply about revolution? Then you'll say, okay, it's not sudden, right? That's what you're gonna say, right? It's not sudden, but the passage itself focused on this, right? Delineating three different types of people who want to forward a revolution and his counter-argument to that, right? So he's saying it's not class, it's about the practical things, right? All right, let's take a look. Number 33, which choice best describes the author's perspective on those who support revolutionary political change? All right, so I mean, this can include all three groups of people, right? So I don't know. I can't pre-phrase. Do I have a line reference? Yes. So I do. Sorry. So there is a line reference. So do I want to look at the line reference first? What should you ask? In deciding this, okay? In deciding whether you should do 33 or 34 first, what should you think about? General or specific, okay? Write it down if you couldn't think of that. General or specific, okay? So what do you think? Is this general or specific? Really, really, really general. You need to look at least four or more paragraphs, right? So I'm just gonna do this first, right? Take a look. A, he believes that they tend to be driven by jealousy. Jealousy? Where? Okay, I told this, I said this yesterday. If you're raising your eye, it means it's time to move on to the next answer choice, okay? If you're starting to think about something, if you 꽂혀 here and you're thinking about this, move on, okay? Don't go back to the passage. Don't ponder on it. Move on, okay? B says he thinks that they have a variety of motives, all of which are foolish. Yeah, of course, right? So this one, obviously more, but it's easy to choose A here. Just say, oh yeah, jealousy, yeah. We'll talk about this later. See, he dismisses them as posing a greater threat to themselves. Do we have this comparison? Themselves than to the nation? Do we have this comparison? No. Themselves versus the nations, who's harmed more? No, did not talk about that. Sympathetic? Nope, not at all, right? Not sympathetic. So, jealousy? No, it wasn't there, okay? I mean, I could go back to the passage, but that would be useless, okay? It's not there. It's just not there. You made if you thought it was A, you looked at the self-centering thing, right? They are self-centered, and then based on this, because they are self-centered, they want to bring down people who are higher up than them, right? they want to bring them down, right? But you inferred that it's because of jealousy if you chose this. Never ever said that. No one ever said that. It's because they're self-centered that they want to bring them down. That's what's said. We never talked about jealousy. So A is gone, B. So what will be the answer for this? Well, we chose this. They have a variety of motives. So I know that this is going to be in the first paragraph, right? Where first paragraph where he explains that there's a variety of them, right? There's a lot of different groups, and we need to delineate them and so on. So I'm gonna just look at A and B here, right? So the answer is B, right? Early in the passage, the main focus shifts from, okay. Main focus shifts from. So important thing, you shouldn't have any expectations. No expectations, just a simple true or false, and the sequence needs to be right, of course, right? Okay, let's take a look. Critique of revolutions. So I'm not so sure about this, but I'm going to read on. To an acknowledgement of their occasionally beneficial, nope. I know for sure that's not there. He never once said anything beneficial. Okay? You should be able to eliminate this. If you couldn't eliminate this, it means that there were too many gaps in your understanding of the passage. You skipped too many parts. There were too many, there were so many things that you did not annotate, so you knew that your understanding of the passage was only like 70%. So say, oh, there might be some beneficial parts that I didn't read about, but no, that should not happen, okay? So this is wrong. B, general discussion of revolutions. Yes, of course, revolutions are sudden to the unthinking only. That was a general discussion. If that's not a general discussion, I don't know what is, because he's talking about every single revolution, right? To an analysis of different types of revolution. Yeah, of course. It's really easy. Defense of class barriers. It's not defending anything, and he never even mentioned class barriers. Caution about caution sounds okay. Caution about the consequences of revolution. So what are the consequences? No one ever mentioned that, right? We don't know what's going to happen if there's a revolution. He just said that we shouldn't have a revolution. He just implied that we shouldn't have a revolution. So no. So B. Central claim in the first paragraph. Okay. Revolutionaries are too fanatical to be persuaded. No, he didn't make any commentary except the fact that we need to know about them and we need to understand them. So not here. B, political problems leading to the revolutions in France developed gradually. So did we see that kind of development in the passage? Like did he say there was a gradual development? No. C, the reasons people oppose the current system must be understood. Yeah, of course. That was the most important point in the first paragraph. If revolution in England is to be prevented. Yes. So C is the right answer. Understanding the true motivations of revolutionaries. This sounds pretty good until it said nearly impossible. Strange noises and rumblings. Okay, so okay, I guess I got this word from just my memory of this answer, right? So A is the right answer here. I didn't mean to give out the answer, but manners. So let's go back. Motives and manners of these people who want to forward a revolution. That's what it is. So it would be behaviors. Who said properties? Okay. 39, in the second passage, the author uses the word weathercock uncertainty and dough-baked patriots. All right, so I mean, Do you know what this means? Do you know what this means? If you don't know, then, I mean, just focus on, I mean, know that this is the second paragraph. What was the point made in the second paragraph? That they're indecisive. Well, is it talking about the first class where they're indecisive? Yeah, that's right, right? Indecisive, right? So notice that, okay, so if this is, I know this is his goal, right? Because I knew the goal of the second paragraph, right? To delineate the first class, and that class, he wanted to, what the idea that he wanted to convey was that they were indecisive. So I want to focus on this, just simply, because I know his purpose. So A is unreliability of certain military, of course not, unpredictable nature of warfare. Unpredictable sounded okay, but this part just completely, no. No, actually no, unpredictable, not really. Variability, yeah. Indecisive, they're swayed often, they oscillate, that kind of thing, of some people's beliefs. There you go. So C is the right answer. According to the author, members of the second class, okay, so I'm just going to say rage, right? Rage, C, right? And they did also mention revenge directly in the second group. Third class, okay, so who are these people? So these people, self-centered, right? Self-centered, they want to bring down people who are above them. They don't want to help people below them. Right? Okay, so that's the thing. Acceleration of, no. Economic reform, no. Boost their own income, potentially you could be a little bit confused, but you shouldn't do that because maybe they're not concerned about their income. We did say self-centered, but that's more general. This is more specific than that. Okay? Did anybody choose B? No one? C. Improved treatment of the lower classes. They did not want this, actually. Removal of the nobility. Yeah, they wanted to bring down people. And so this would be somewhere in that paragraph. So here, right, exaltation, they anticipate with exaltation the abolition of privileged orders. So it's probably this part, which is B, right? Okay, let's take a break. We'll go to the writing section after this. Okay. Okay, before I take some questions, let's take a look at number one. Just so you need to identify what kind of question this is first, okay? So what kind of question is this? Is this a modifier question? Okay, so think about this. Okay, so so if you look at answer choice A, we have a subject and a verb here, but here we have a which. It starts with the relative pronoun. So obviously they're grammatically different. A, B, C, D, they're all grammatically different. No, not necessarily all of them, but I guess this one is kind of different, right? So what would the answer be? Okay, so then you need to think, you should think that it's B. You know what I mean? Because they're all like, okay, so A, we have a subject and a verb. C, we also have a subject and a verb. D, we also have a subject and a verb. But what about here? Here, we have a relative pronoun. So it's kind of different, right? So you would suspect that it's B. And then after that, why don't you try reading the sentence? Okay, so S was asked. Okay, S was asked. Okay, so we have a subject and a verb, right? So if we have a subject and a verb, after that, we can't have a subject and a verb after this comma. So C, D, A are automatically gone. So it's B, right? Let's just take a quick look at number 2 then before. We'll do number 2 and then I'll take questions, okay? So this is a transition question asking about this one. So we want to read the previous sentence first and then the sentence after that. And then we want to think about the relationship, circle the key phrases here, okay? He painted the mural's first 2 sections featuring images of a tropical rainforest, okay? Mural's first 2 sections, okay? And then it's talking about what the first 2 sections were, okay? And then what about the next sentence? It says, to avoid scrutiny, S painted the final section at night, right? Okay, so the first sentence, first 2 sections during the day, I guess now I see this, right? So it's the first 2 sections during the day and the final section at night. I think it's on that, right? So you would suspect that it could be like on the other hand, or some kind of a contrast, right? So A is also a continuation. So a continuation would be really, really awkward here. Why? Because we're talking about something happening during the day, and on the other hand, something happening at night. So I would imagine a contrast is better than a continuation. Okay, so now I'm suspecting B or C, but now I want to think about the difference between however and although. But, we can't use this. Why? Although is a what? No. Grammatically, what is this? Although. Subordinating conjunction. Can you put a comma after a subordinating conjunction? No, you don't. Okay, so it's not C, it's B. Okay, so okay, next one, the nearest one. So don't yell out 34 or something. Just let's go. So in the beginning, right? 7. Let's take a look at 7. Okay, artist associated with, all right. So, always, I think about this. It's a pronoun question, so you want to think about what this refers to, okay? And automatically, I'm suspecting D. I'm biased towards D, right? Why? Because it feels like that's why they would ask it, right? Okay, so I'm suspecting D, but so I'm looking at A, B, and C with the rather with some suspicion. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm just going to ask myself, okay, what is this? What is it supposed to refer to? Okay, so let's go back here. At the same time, a social and civil rights movement for Mexican Americans was working to raise awareness of Mexican American cultural identity. Okay. Right? Social and civil rights movement, raise awareness. That's the first part. And then it says artists associated with this. So, okay, so if I say this, what do I know I'm referring to? How do I know? Because there's a lot of thises. Well, first of all, cultural identity or awareness. And then movement, right? I have three options. I don't know which one to choose from. So I can't use this. Same for it. Of course it's not them. Okay, so who, if I say them, who is that going to refer to? Mexican Americans. Artists associated with the Mexicans? Is that what it's trying to say? It's associated with this movement, right? So D would be the best. Okay, so let's look at 10. Sets up the information that follows. Okay, so I know this is 11, but don't look here. I'm just going to look here, right? So because 10 is asking about setting up the information that follows, so I need to look here, right? So I need to set up this information, okay? After a lengthy and complex restoration process, okay, so a restoration process, this powerful work is now a tourist attraction, complete with the visitor center and a rooftop viewing platform. So it's now, so it went through a restoration process and now it's a tourist attraction, right? Okay, very simple. Okay, so, okay. If I take a look here, right? So I want, so it's about the restoration, and now it's a tourist attraction. So somehow I want to set this up, somehow, but it feels like, okay, so it says once again, S is this is leading the way, being cleaned and restored at risk of destruction, awaiting its moment, right? So this you need to think about in terms of what it's been saying also. Why? Because it says once again, right? Once again. So what did it do originally? That you need to take into consideration, right? So what did it do initially? So I want to go back to that, okay? So, I mean, you should know. I mean, you shouldn't go back. I'm not saying you should go back when solving this question. I'm saying you should know when you were solving that question. You should have known, okay? So, it says he painted this, right? He painted this, and then blah, blah, blah. The centerpiece of the work was dominated by images of native people, blah, blah, blah. And then his political message did not please the United States, right? So because of his political message, it didn't please people and who had commissioned this work. They eventually ordered the mural to be literally whitewashed. Okay, so they kind of erased or painted over with white paint. And then that white paint began to fade. Social and civil rights movement, there was this movement, and then they wanted to raise cultural identity, and then they wanted to rediscover this, right? And then here, it's kind of talking about the significance of that, right? A was an example of how in public spaces could be used to celebrate Mexican heritage, right? So example of how, this. Inspired by S and the other muralists, this new generation of artists strove to emulate the old mural masters. So S was kind of an inspiration and an example. Inspiration and an example. So that connects with once again, okay? So, if this were just a normal setup question without this once again, I would have just thought about the sentence after that. But this forces you to think about the passage as a whole. Okay? So, I mean, you might have leaned towards B because that's what it's talking about, the restoration. But if you put that in, you would know that it does not make any sense. Why? Because this is the first time that it's being cleaned and restored. Why would it say once again? That doesn't make any sense in terms of the passage. So not this one. At risk of this, no, this is just false. Awaiting its moment of appreciation. No. I mean, it's not awaiting anything. It's restored. It's not waiting, right? That's not waiting. So what about A? Leading the way. Yeah. Did it lead the way before? Yeah, it inspired and served as an example. So that would be the answer. So A. Okay, other questions on this passage. So 1 through 11. Yeah. 8. Okay, combine, right? It's these two sentences, okay? Result was an explosion of mural painting. Explosion of mural painting. And then it's just spread throughout all these places. And then so it refers to the explosion, I guess, right? It was the Chicano mural movement. Is it these two sentences? Okay, so, okay, I think it's relatively simple. The idea itself is relatively simple. Okay, so let's just go through the answer choices. Let's take a look. So A says the result was an explosion. There you go. So, I mean, it's just there, right? The first sentence, right? The Chicano mural movement. Okay, so it's using the second sentence as a modifier. So I would let that go for now. Of mural painting that spread throughout explosion of mural painting. Okay, I mean, I'm just gonna let some nitty gritty things go that spread throughout the blah 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 and the blah blah blah. Okay, so this I would let go, I guess, for now, right? What about B? The result was the Chicano mural movement in explosion. Huh? Okay, so this one is using the second sentence. I mean, it just kind of switched it, right? It just kind of switched it, but it still works, right? An explosion of mural painting that spread throughout California and the southwestern United States. So this one has one clause, this one has one clause. So I think, they both work for now. We'll take a closer look later. And then what about C? The explosion of mural painting that spread throughout California and blah, blah, blah was the resulting. Okay, so I'm not so sure about this because, I mean, first of all, I don't want to necessarily change the subject, right? Because that changes the tone of everything. Like, as a rule, you do want to keep the subject the same though, right? So not so sure about this, although it is talking about a similar thing, right? So this one, I mean, I wouldn't, I would go with A or B rather than changing the subject. And same for this one. Okay? So now let's talk about the differences. And a key difference that you should think about is what? So we have a lot of modifiers. And it's easy to just look at those modifiers and just say, oh, the two are the same. We did this yesterday too, right? Remember when we were doing the 1MCP and Apple passage, and we had a combined sentence question there, and one was modifying the off season when it wasn't supposed to, right? So you want to always keep the modifiers where they belong. So okay, so let's take a look here. So now with that in mind, if you take a look at this of mural painting All right, so think about this. So this one, that spread throughout California and the southwestern United States in the 1970s seems like it's modifying mural paintings. Okay? But is that supposed to happen? I mean, this one is kind of different because explosion is still here, and this is a prepositional phrase modifying this, but this one purposely placed that prepositional phrase here. So if I do this, it's kind of confusing. You know what I mean? So I don't want to do this. This one did keep this explosion thing here, and then we have that modifying this. So I would rather go with this. Okay? So B is the right answer. Wait, is it? Yeah, B should be the answer. I might be wrong, actually, but I'm 99% sure. I don't have the answer key, so. Okay, next one. Okay, so no more on this passage. Then let's go to the next one, the next passage. So questions on this passage, yeah. 12. Okay, so let's take a look at 12. What kind of question is this? Okay, so now you have an option of deleting. When you have an option of deleting, you need to ask yourself, okay, this might potentially be a redundancy question. Potentially, right? Why else would you want to delete it? I mean, the other option is grammar, right? The other option is grammatically, it wouldn't, you can't have something that's here. What's underlined here?
The people who purchase.
The people who purchase, okay? All right, so let's take a look. Some people buy organic food because they believe organically grown crops are more nutritious, but you need to stop here. Why? Because there's a comparison here, right? So I guess it's not a redundancy question after all. Now you can kind of think about it in different terms. What can you think about? Well, it's a comparison, right? And the underlined portion is right after then. So of course this is a comparison question, right? So what are we comparing? They believe organically grown crops are more nutritious and safer than people. Do you eat people? You know what I mean? Do you eat purchase? No. Then what happens if you delete this? They're organically grown counterparts. So D is the right answer. Next one. 22? So what is this asking? Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to get rid of this, right? Right off the bat. Why? Actually, this too. Actually, this too. Well, okay. All right. All right. Well, why? You, I mean, come on. Okay, so this one is pretty obvious, no? Why? Because you need a full sentence before this. You can't end a sentence like this. Imagine if this was a period. Would this work? No, of course not. So, what about, do you put a comma after such as? You don't do that. You just say, I mean, your options are this. When it comes to such as, you have something and then you put a comma here, or either you do this and you don't put a comma here. These are your two options when it comes to such as, and then you list things, right? That's what you do, okay? Well, when do you put the comma and when do you not put the comma? That depends on whether this information is essential or non-essential. Those are the only things you need to think about. Do we ever put a comma here? No, never. It's why? It's just the way it is. It's we do it like that, right? So the thing you need to remember about such as is this. Whether you should put a comma here or not depends on whether this phrase is essential or non-essential. In this case, these cases, you wouldn't, if you need this information for this part to make sense, then you would eliminate that comma. If it can go, if it's just additional information, then you can put a comma. But here, I mean, they all have commas, right? So yeah, D. Really? No one had, so can I count on you guys? So you guys were 100% sure on all of the passages. I mean, all of the questions in this passage? Where does this paragraph start? Okay, so we're trying to do 20, right? It's asking, we want to reinforce the paragraph's claim. So where does this paragraph start? Evidence. Okay. So let's start looking from here. Evidence also undermines the claim that organic food is safer to eat. Okay, so that's pretty easy, right? So organic food is not safer. That's what the evidence is going to say, right? Organic is not safer. While researchers have found lower levels of pesticide residue in organic produce than in non-organic produce. Okay, so pesticide residue was lower in organic, right? The pesticide residue detected in conventional produce falls within acceptable safety limits, right? So it is within safety limits, right? So there is a difference, right? There is a difference, but still conventional, although they might seem like they have more, it's still safe. That's what they're saying, right? It's still safe. And next part, it says, according to such organizations as the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the minute amounts of residue falling within such limits have no negative. So is this the underlined portion? What? Oh, no. It's not underlined, right? This part. Okay, so have no negative impact. Okay, so it just goes along with what we've been reading, right? So what did it say here? It said organic versus conventional. And they don't have a lot of pesticide here. They do have more, but still this is acceptable. And they say no negative impact. Okay, so what's the question asking? Now we want to be really careful because this is going to make or break it, okay? So it all depends on the question stem. Why? The question stem is so long too. It's asking you for a very specific thing to look for. What is it saying? Wants to further reinforce. Okay, so notice how it said further reinforce. So the paragraph's claim about the safety of non-organic food. Okay, so that's what he wants to emphasize. He just wants to say, hey, non-organic foods, they're also safe. So is it okay if I have another reason to support the fact that non-organic foods are safe? Yes, of course it's okay because he wants to just further reinforce that. So I'm looking for that, right? So this could be one reason. So, or I could elaborate on this and further strengthen that, or I can just give another reason why that's safe. Okay. So A says to be labeled organic, no. Organic food, no. Why are we talking about organic? Okay. I want to talk about non-organic food, right? Consumers who are concerned about ingesting pesticide residue can eliminate much of it by simply washing. Yeah, Okay, so you can just wash it and it's gone. So it is safe. So this one is okay. In fact, the Environmental Protection Agency, so they can say something, right? They can say something that is safe, right? Environmental Protection Agency estimates that about 1/5 of the pesticides used worldwide are applied. So what? So what? I need to compare. I mean, not compare. I need to say non-organic crops are safe, but what is this doing? So C is the right answer. What? Which answer choice confused you?
It's just two.
Okay. Okay, others. Okay, so I can count on everybody having every question wrong, every question right. In this passage.
60.
Okay, so this one is maintain. Why? Because the word is used like that. And this you do need to know, okay? So maintain can be, it can be used similarly to they claim, right? So some maintain that, so some argue that, some claim that. It's all used in the same vein. So here, advocates of organic food, they argue that it's that. So they maintain that. Right? It's used in that vein, okay? And it's used really often too. Okay, what about the next passage? 25. Okay, which choice sets up the contrast in the sentence and is consistent with the information in the rest of the passage? Okay, so before we do this, let's read the first paragraph, okay? Research on regional variations in English language, okay, regional variations, has not only yielded answers to such life-altering questions as how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages. Who says soda? Who says pop? Who says Coke? Who lives in the States?
Lived or lives?
Lived/lives. Okay. Okay, just curious. So they call it differently, right? That's how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages. It also illustrates how technology, okay, so how technology can change the very nature of research. Huh. Okay, so, well, I don't know why it says life altering here. I guess this was one of the questions. Okay. So it's focusing on two things, right? So it's how people refer to the same thing with different words, right? And how technology can change research. The impact of technology on research. Okay, so next part it says, while traditional human-intensive data collection has all but disappeared in language studies, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues. Social media opened new avenues for investigation. Okay, so this is talking about the second part, right? How tech is impacting research, right? Now we can research using SNS. I guess that's what they're saying, right? Okay. Oh, you were asking for 25, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the underlined portion?
Has all but disappeared.
So I need, Okay, while traditional human-intensive data collection is this, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues. Okay, new avenues. All right. So I would need to, so your instinct should be to go to the next part also. Because I don't have enough information to solve this here. And the passage asked you about the rest of the passage. So you would kind of need to turn the page and go to the next part. So it says, perhaps the epitome of traditional methodology is this, right? Okay, so it's talking about something that was made using the traditional methodology, okay? So, and then it discusses blah, blah, blah. They did this work over a 6 period. Okay, so it's still this, okay, they discussed that in very, like, in a very detailed manner, okay? So they talk about the traditional methodology. Okay, so now let's take a look. Okay, so A says, has all but disappeared. Okay, I wouldn't do that. I mean, why would you say has all but disappeared and you talk about that dictionary made in the traditional sense in such a detail? So no, not necessarily this. B still has an important place. You could, it's not the only option, of course, because it just doesn't add up with the next part. Yields questionable results. No, actually, it talked about that dictionary and it said the results were good. So I would say B. I'm not so sure why this is a clean-cut answer, but all the other choices are just terrible. So I would bet my life that it's B. Okay, next one.
27.
So, improve the cohesion and flow of this paragraph. What writer wants to add it? So should we add this or no? Right? Should we add this or no? It should be placed after. Okay. So what should you do first? Well, first of all, I want to decide whether I want to read this or this first. But when you're solving the test, you would just read this first, right? So you would read this, while you're solving the other questions, there aren't any other questions. There's one, but let's take a look. Okay, so the epitome of traditional methodology is this. It's fifth and final, blah, 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 ending, blah, blah, blah. Represents decades of arduous work, 6-year period, conducted interviews for 6 years, did that. Their goal was to determine what names people use for everyday objects, it's a process, and blah, blah, blah. The work that dictionary founder had expected to be finished by blah, blah, was in fact completed in his lifetime. Okay, so expectation versus reality. He expect to finish by this, but it took his, completed in his lifetime. I don't know how long that was, but the wait did not dampen enthusiasm among scholars. Scholars consider the work a signal achievement, right? So they think it's a really good achievement. So what does it say? Data gathering proved to be the quick part of the project. Okay, so before this, we need to talk about the data gathering, right? Data gathering, and then after this, what do we need to have? The hard part. The difficult part. Okay, so data gathering. Okay, so this is data gathering. So sentence 3 is data gathering. What about sentence 4? So if I were to put it after sentence 3, sentence 4 would need to be the difficulty, right? The goal was to determine what names people use for such a blah, 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 and the heavy blah, 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 or blah. Well, this one is just elaborating on this. So these two should flow together. And it's not talking about a difficulty, right? The difficulty would be this, right? they expected this to be finished here, but they finished in his lifetime because it was too difficult, right? So that would be an elaboration on that detail. So it would be C here. Yeah.
29.
21?
29.
29? Let's take a look. Sentence structure, right? You should recognize that it's a sentence structure question, right? Placed by another army. Huh, okay. Were you confused with B?
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. No one says this in this world. By another, what does that mean? By another army, the vast array of individuals volunteering details about their lives through social media. Well, first of all, what does by another army mean? It means replaced by another army. You shouldn't stop here, right? Did you eliminate other answer choices or no?
So first, I thought it was like a list, but like then I found out that it wasn't the list, so I deleted D.
Why would you delete D? Why did you delete D?
I thought that like it didn't make sense if I could select the calling thing.
No. Why did you delete D? I'm not saying, I'm not talking about it not making sense. That's not an answer. Why did you delete D?
I felt like it wasn't a list. Like, I don't
Okay,
elaborating.
didn't you take the grammar during the first week? Grammar course in first week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What follows after a colon, guys? Okay, grammatically. Okay, that, yes, but grammatically. Huh? List or what? Okay, grammatically, elaboration does not mean anything to me. Grammatically, what follows after a colon? Subject, verb, or what? Huh? Noun or list. Okay? It makes perfect sense. Okay? The vast array of individuals volunteering lives and inadvertently their language through social media. It's a noun. So D. Okay, others? Concludes the sentence and paragraph. Okay, so does the paragraph start here?
Yeah.
Okay. Not all research into regional English varieties requires such blah, blah, blah. Okay. So not all research requires this time. Today's researchers have found that veritable army of trained volunteers traveling the country, face-to-face interviews can sometimes be replaced by another army, the vast array of individuals volunteering details about their lives. Okay, so it's not conducting face-to-face interviews anymore. It's what? Individuals volunteering. Why? How? Through social media, right? So that's the new research, right? And then it says Bryce Russ of Ohio State, for example, has, okay, so this is an example, has employed software to sort through postings on one social media site. Okay, so this is an example of him using social media, right? And then as well as the location from blah, blah, blah. From these data, he was able, among other things, to confirm regional variations. So he found regional variations, and then he found all this, right? As interesting as Russ's findings are, though, their true value, okay, so what's the true value? True value lies in their reminder that the internet is not merely a sophisticated tool for collecting data. It's not just for collecting data, but also this, right? Right. All right, so then so we're talking about the internet, right? We're talking about the internet, so this is actually basically a generalization that the author is making after he discusses Russ's findings, right? And Russ's methodologies, right? Russ's methodology was using the internet and then SNS and then researching that and whatever, right? So A says, itself a rich source of data. Internet is a rich source of data. That is possible. Yeah, that is something that we talked about. But I'm just going to leave it for now. I want to take a look at the other ones. Where we can learn what terms... no, we're talking about the internet. Yeah, I'm sure that this is what they found, but it's mentioned here that, hey, I'm not going to talk about his findings for now. I want to focus on talking about the internet. Right? So B is not the answer. What about C? Useful way to stay connected to... Is that what he found through his study? Helpful to researchers. This one sounds okay. But think about this. Helpful versus itself a rich source of data. Which one most effectively concludes? Is this effective, helpful to researchers? No, I would go with A. Right? That more effectively does it. Although the two are, I guess, in terms of relevance, they're both pretty relevant. Next one. Okay, let's go to the fourth passage. 35. Okay, so I see a lot of colons, first of all, and the SAT loves to test this. That's why I emphasize this so much. If you see a colon, you want to check if the information that follows after this is in elaboration of the idea mentioned before the colon. Okay, so what's the idea mentioned before? The designer envisions the game's fundamental elements. Okay, so is this focusing on the game's fundamental elements or him envisioning it? I don't know. I feel like it can go either way, right? So let's take a look. The settings, characters, and plots that make each character unique and is thus a primary... Why are you making a conclusion here? So A is gone. And is thus... Why are you telling me stuff? You're not supposed to reason. Okay? Why? Because the second... Why? Okay. Then we just need to take a look at this. Elements. Then I guess you can have it, right? Because this is just elaborating on the game's fundamental elements. So yes, technically we can have this, but all right. No, That's not what I was talking about. If you have a semicolon here, though, this thing, it becomes a sentence, is what I'm saying, right? You can't do this, okay? Why? You're furthering the reasoning. You don't further the reasoning after a colon. After a colon, you shut up and give me the detail, okay? That's what you do after a colon. It's not doing that. It's actually trying to further its point. Don't do that. Just stick to envision and fundamental elements if you have a semicolon. I mean, if you have a colon. So A is gone. What about B? Doesn't make any sense. Gone. I mean, why would you do this? Like, first of all, why is this here? Okay. Okay. So if you have a dash, what purpose would it serve? It has two functions. Okay.
Elaboration.
No.
And
No. No, we didn't talk about that.
Comma splice.
Okay, comma splice or what?
Connecting two clauses.
No, we didn't talk about that. I said this, okay? So this is how you should think about it, okay? So it's one of these two functions. Okay? So it's used either as a colon or semicolon, or it's a comma splice kind of function, but a little bit more liberal than a comma splice. So in this case, can this be case 1?
no.
No, because we just have a noun here. So I can't do that. But for the second usage, I need another dash. Do we have another dash?
No.
So B is gone. Okay. What about C? Okay, so this one is just, yeah, I have two dashes and it's being used as this function. So it's okay. And this one, yeah, it's just elaborating on the elements. So this one I would say is okay. What in the world is this doing? So is it saying that this is a list? So it's just doing this and then it's listing a plot? Then, wait, no, this one is underline till here. Okay, so, well, that's not a list then. It's not parallel at all, right? So we can't do this. So C. Next one. You should remember this. Okay. I don't care about the meaning of a dash. The only thing I care about when I see a dash is, okay, is it being used as this or is it being used as this? Okay. 42. You develop blank. Okay, D. What does, okay, so the answer is D. Important collaboration skills. What does eminent mean? I can't hear you. Yes. Famous and respected, that's good, right? Well, so it's not this. Skills can't be famous, right? What about paramount? Paramount does mean important, but when you say paramount to something. A is paramount to B, or something like that. Right? I guess, but you know, it would be used more. I mean, I guess you could say, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't say paramount skills though. You could say, oh, it is. Okay, I wouldn't say it's important. I don't know how to, I don't know the definition. I would fail a vocab test. Paramount, I mean, you can say, oh, this is of paramount importance. You can do that. Like, I mean, so something that's really, who knows the definition for paramount? You guys didn't look this up? Yeah. Supreme. Yeah. Okay. So okay. Supreme sounds good. Right? So you can say, yeah, this is of paramount importance to us. Supreme. So supreme collaboration skills. Now, well, first of all, you don't use that with skills. It's just not how it goes. You would just be better off saying important here. What about A? Emphatic. What does emphatic mean? So it's basically, I mean, emphasize, right? I mean, I'm not saying it means emphasize, right? What does emphasize mean? Okay, you accentuate something. You say this is you highlighting something, underlining something, right? That's what emphasizing is, right? Emphatic, well, it's an adjective, but it's like, yeah, something that is worth emphasizing, right? I mean, I mean, people use this word a lot. Oh, okay, that's an emphatic. It's an emphatic no, means I really want to emphasize the fact that I want to say no, right? It's an emphatic yes. It's a very enthusiastic yes, like that kind of thing. So not emphatic here. It would be important. Okay, other ones? Okay, what's the answer for 43? Who chose A? B? C? D? Okay. If you got 43 wrong, you need to review your grammar. What kind of question is this?
Modifier.
Modifier. What's the modifier here? Demanding and deadline driven. Huh? Okay, good. Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, then everyone got it right. That's good. Okay. So, yeah, it's a front modifier question, so we need to choose a noun that's demanding and deadline driven. Okay, so this one is a short answer, but front modifier questions are going to show up like this. They're going to give you like a front modifier, and then they're going to underline this portion, and they're going to ask you to choose this part, right? They're going to ask you to choose this part. But some of the answer choices are going to be really, really long. And some people spend a lot of time reading this. But actually, you just need to look at the first noun and you're done for these questions. It shows up pretty often. Did we see any like that? But, well, it does show up. And when I see students taking the test, they're just looking at that and they're like looking at the other modifiers and stuff. I don't know. Okay, if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna stop here. Is that okay? Or you can still ask, okay? If we missed any questions. Questions 1 through 44, anything. Okay, how's vocab going? Is everybody doing okay on the vocab tests?
Yeah.
I see some people nodding their heads, but I saw their score. Everybody, I mean, you should study for the vocabulary at least. I mean, because like first week, I've heard a lot of people say, "Hey, vocab list is so easy," but I see the vocab score. You guys, I mean, some of you are doing well, but you know. Okay, so let's take a break. We'll come back and do the reading passages. passage? Okay, so well, I don't think anybody thought the first passage was difficult, right? That one was pretty easy, right? How the web affects memory. And then we have the, what is that? What's that passage? Space travel. Oh, I feel like, what? Space mining, yes, not space traveling. Space mining, and then we have the DNA. The DNA, right? If you have to choose, it will be the DNA, right? Okay, so let's, okay, we'll do the DNA passage in a bit. But before we go on, why don't we, wait, why don't you guys all close your eyes for a second? Do you guys remember how many questions you got wrong on the writing section? By the way, like, you should keep track. So in front of your writing workbook, you should keep track of how many questions you get wrong for you're getting wrong for each section. So if you look at the table of contents, you know how we said, okay, there's problem set 1, problem set 2, 3, 4. I mean, just write how many you got wrong for each section. Not now, but do that, okay? So keep track of that. And below that, or in a blank page, keep track of all the question types you're getting wrong now, okay? Hopefully you're getting, I don't want to put a number on it, but hopefully you're getting, if you're above it, it's fine, but hopefully you're getting less than, I want to be really careful here. I'll be generous and I'll say, I mean, it depends on what grade you're in. So, okay. I mean, if you're taking the test in the near future, I would say hopefully less than 6. So 5 or less. Okay. Hopefully 5 or less. Then you're ready to take the test in the near future. Okay. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take the test, but you know, but if you're above 10, I guess if you're above 10, okay, I'm not saying that's a problem, but I'm saying, well, it is a problem actually. So you need to go back to the grammar lessons and you need to kind of review it. Okay. Okay. 다 됐나요? 네, 감사합니다. Then, okay, why don't we do this now? So, how many did you get wrong on the section that you did for today? I think it was problem set 9, right? Okay. You guys know how many you got wrong? Okay. Why don't you close your eyes? Just close your eyes. Everybody, don't open your eyes. Okay. So who got 0 wrong? Who got everything right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't hit that thing. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. What? Wait. I don't think someone raised their hand. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29? What? No. This is, okay. Okay, it's okay. Open your eyes. Okay. I guess I was wrong. But anyway, yeah. So, especially if you're getting less than 10 wrong now. Okay? Especially if you're getting less than 10 wrong. If you're more than 10 right now, you need to review. It's not a time to solve questions. I mean, I'm not saying don't solve the questions, but you need to review and then solve the questions. Because if you're not reviewing and you just do the problem set, you're not changing. You're just your same old self and you're just doing more problem sets. So study and then review some of the concepts. Identify, okay, so I think I have a problem with punctuation. Then just review punctuation and then do the problem set. Or if you think, I suck at transition. Then review the transitions, study page 52 to 54 on the Spoonfed book, and then do the test or whatever, right? So review and do it. And also, how many hours do you guys sleep a day? So who sleeps 5 hours or less a day? 6 hours or less? 7 or less? 8 or less? 9 or less? 10 or less? Huh? I don't think somebody raised 11 or less. No. Okay. Wait. Okay. How many hours do you think you should sleep? Huh? 9? 8?
That's the opposite.
Okay. Who goes to another 학원 after this? Huh. So, okay. Okay. You don't want to sleep less than 7 hours. Honestly. You do not want to do that. And if you're, I mean, like, yeah, like back when I was in high school, during school days, I slept like, I don't know, I don't remember, but I didn't sleep a lot also. Like you guys, I would imagine you guys do the same. You guys don't sleep a lot during school. But I mean, during vacation at least, you need to sleep less. I mean, you need to sleep at least 7 hours because, I mean, this test, it's okay, if you think about it, let me use an analogy. Like, taking a math test or taking like a history test, okay? So that requires a specific skill set, right? So if you're taking a history test, for example, yes, if you're taking the AP history test, that requires reading ability and also writing ability, like, and your comprehension, your logical reasoning. But most of it comes from your knowledge. It's a knowledge-based test, right? Same for math. You have a specific skill set and you're using that, right? But what about the SAT? This is just like raw mental power, okay? This test itself, like it all boils down to this. It all boils down to you coming down to this, and you need to make a decision based on your reasoning. It's just sheer mental power. So using an analogy, like history or math, it would be like playing soccer or like playing table tennis, right? So your athletic ability does matter. And if you have like superior athletic abilities, you would be a better soccer player, right? If you could run faster, you could be a better soccer player. You would have a higher chance of being a better soccer player. But the SAT, it's like a 100-meter sprint, okay? It's just all your athletic ability. It's all mental power, this thing. And if you're getting less than 7 hours of sleep, you're not operating at 100%. You're operating at like 70 or like 80. And that's gonna make you make illogical decisions when it comes down to this, okay? So you wanna, I don't know. I don't know how you guys spend your time, but I mean, after this class, you guys go in there and then you guys do your homework. I would imagine you either finish your homework there or you at least get 80% done, right? Does that sound about right? At least 80%, right? And then you just do a little bit of vocabulary at home. So yeah, and you should get some rest also, right? I mean, you should do something that's completely unrelated to studying, but hopefully something a little bit more productive. So I mean, I would rather than just browsing on Instagram for like an hour like pointlessly. I'd rather watch something on Netflix. That would be better. That's going to at least feed into your I don't know, experiences somewhat. So and still that's going to relieve you of your stress and whatnot. So do spend time after that. But if you have another 학원, I guess I don't know, like it's kind of hard. But you need to at least get 7 hours of sleep. If you're getting less than that, you're not spending your time wisely. Ask yourself, do you guys go on Instagram, or what do you guys do? Do you guys do Snapchat or TikTok? What is that funny? TikTok? What, nobody does TikTok? Is it why? Explain why that's funny. No one does it.
It's just kind of weird.
It's weird. TikTok is weird.
No one likes TikTok.
No one likes TikTok. Yeah, I genuinely don't know. That's why I'm asking. No one does TikTok.
Who likes TikTok?
Okay, so it's either Instagram or Snapchat
Facebook.
or Facebook. Did I? Okay. Well, back in the day, okay, I started Facebook when like in its beginning, right? So right now people call it a timeline, right? Did I tell you guys this? No. Okay. So this timeline thing, it got introduced later, okay? But before I talk about this, like for the first, I don't know, for the first like 2 or 3 years that I've been doing Facebook, there was no like button. Such a concept did not exist. Like there was no like button, and not just on Facebook, but anywhere on the internet, there was no like, or like smiley face or heart or whatever. That did not exist. And when it first came out, people were like, what the heck is this? Like everybody hated it when likes came out. But now everybody can't live without it. And timeline did not exist back then. We called it a wall. Okay, I mean, is there still a wall? Like, does it say, oh, right on this person's wall? No. Okay. Well, anyway, we called it a wall, and it's not a timeline, it's a wall. And the thing is, you couldn't chat with other people. There was no Facebook chat. Facebook was just Facebook, and that was it, right? And also, so the only thing that you could do on Facebook was, one, post photos, okay? Post photos, and you can do a status update. You can do a status update, but okay, so let's say, for example, like, my name's like Daniel O, okay? So it's like here, and then you have this is inbuilt here, right? So the only thing that you could write in your status update is something that can come after is. So you could say like Daniel O is happy. So that would be your status update, right? And then people saw that, people would see this. There was nothing they can do about this. You couldn't even reply to this. You can't even reply. You just see it, and then that's it. You see it, and okay, he's happy, I guess. He's sad, I guess, and is meeting with someone or something like that. And well, anyway, so you couldn't comment on other people's posts. So, I mean, on photos you could comment, but you can't reply to other people's posts. So what would happen if you want to communicate with someone on Facebook is you would go to someone's wall and you would write a post, okay? And then what happens? Do you think they can reply on that? No. They come back to your wall and they write something. So if you look at people's walls, it's just like a bunch of people just talking to each other. That's their wall. That used to be Facebook. Why am I talking about this? Wait, but I'm surprised you guys are on Facebook. Does everybody do Facebook? No?
Yes. Everyone does Facebook.
Everyone does Facebook?
It's like Korean tradition.
Really? Is it a Korean thing or is it a is it
The reason our school just uses Facebook, so like the only way like we can communicate is like.
cuz like really? Cuz like for my friends, no one does Facebook anymore. No one cares about Facebook. Like everyone's done with it. But I guess for you guys it's not. I guess they did some super marketing they pulled off some super marketing strategy for your generation. But anyway, like don't spend too much time on like Facebook or Instagram. Just do something else and don't waste time. Try not to waste time. Just if you're going to relax, just relax. Don't have your phone next to you and your book open and like solve one question, go back to your Instagram. What do you even do on Instagram? Is it what do you do on you guys on Instagram? You look at posts? Huh? You look at memes?
Self-satisfaction.
Okay. What? DM people? Can't you just text them?
It's the same thing, but it's like on Instagram. Kakao Talk's better.
Huh? What?
Kakao Talk's better.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, at least you need to sleep 7 hours. And also during the school year, if you're sleeping like 5 hours or less consistently, you need to seriously think about your priorities. Are you in a club that you hate because of college apps? Right? Think about that. Yeah, because a lot of people spend too much time on activities that don't even matter to them. And it's not going to pay off. Like you think it's going to pay off, but it's not. Like not even college application wise, it's not going to pay off. And like the difference is really marginal. So just do the things that really matter to you. Extracurricular activities, it should be your play. Like it shouldn't be something that you need to do. It should be something that you want to do. Like after a day, like after doing all your homework, you should be like, okay, I'm so excited to work on my Spanish club project. No, I don't know. Like something like that. It needs to be something that you gain energy from, not spend energy on. Okay? So that really think about that. You guys shouldn't be getting like less than five hours of sleep consistently. Shouldn't happen. You'll do horribly on the test if you keep that up. Okay. Well, just this last thing. Okay. People think. Okay. So let's say okay, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay. So the test is on Saturday, right? Test is on Saturday. What people think is, okay, I'll get a good night's sleep on Friday, and I'll be good. That's not true. Actually, what affects you more on this day is not this day's sleep, it's this day's sleep. Okay? This affects you more. So if you slept like 4 hours here and you slept 8 hours here, no. Like it's better even to do this. Okay? I mean, I'm not saying do this, but I'm saying do both. Okay? So rest well during the week of also. Not just the day before. That's not going to count. Okay? Why?
A face of disbelief.
Why disbelief?
I don't know if it works or not, so.
Okay. Then do not disbelieve. Believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look. Genetical implications genetical implications. So what kind of consequence, like what do we get from this? Like what does it mean in terms of genetics? We know the structure of this, so what does that mean? That's what it's talking about, right? So the structure looks like this, so what would that entail? That's what they're curious about, right? Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, right? Okay, genetic implications of the structure of this. Okay, and then we have some background information. It says they deduced the structure of DNA using evidence from blah blah's X-ray crystallography diagrams of DNA. Okay, so it's probably going to talk about the structure of that and what that entails. Like where do we go from there? Okay, so let's take a look. The chemical formula. Okay, so now my first thought is, okay, so I don't know anything. I mean, you might have prior knowledge in this, but you want to throw that out the window. You don't really want to use that, especially in a science passage, okay? In history passages, prior knowledge can actually help, but not for science passages. So don't think about that. So you should tell yourself, okay, I want to know about the structure of DNA, right? That's probably the first thing that they're going to be talking about, because I have no idea of what this is going to look like, okay? So chemical formula of deoxyribonucleic acid is now well established. The molecule is a very long chain. Okay, so well established. So first of all, we've read, so for example, the passage that we've read yesterday, friction, it was talking about how it was not well established, right? How friction worked, right? But this one is saying it is well established, so it's worth noting, right? They might test you on this knowledge later on, so I guess you could just circle it, right? The molecule is a very long chain. I guess this is our first thing, right? The backbone of which consists of a regular alternation of sugar and phosphate groups. Okay, so regular alternation of sugar and phosphate groups. Okay, so the visualization that you make based on this passage it can be different from the actual DNA structure, but that's even better, because we want to serve only what's in the passage. You don't want to infuse your knowledge into this passage. Okay, so even if you know about what a DNA, like what the DNA structure looks like, you don't want to think about that. So let's just do it really in real simple terms. Okay, so it's an alternation of S and P groups, right? So, okay, I guess it's going to look something like this. That's what I'm thinking, right? Okay, to each sugar is attached nitrogenous base. Okay, so now we're gonna have something like this, which can be of 4 types. Okay, so this can be of 4 types. Okay, you don't need to do this actually, but I mean, because it's too much information, this passage. It's giving us too much information. So if you want to do this, like when you're reading this for the first time, you do not need to visualize this. But if you feel like that's going to help you, right? If you feel like that's going to help like build up your confidence on this passage, it's worth doing, because it's not going to take much time, right? Okay, so which can be of 4 types. 2 of the possible bases, A and G, are P's, and the T and C are PY's. Okay, so PY, PU, okay? So you have PU's and you have PY's, right? And then this is A and G, and this is T and C. Okay, so this is pretty simple, right? So this base is gonna be one of these 4 things, I guess, right? Okay. So far as is known, the sequence of bases along the chain is irregular. Okay, so it's irregular. That's something that you want to take note of. The monomer unit consists of a phosphate, sugar, and base. Okay, consisting of phosphate, sugar, and base, is known as a nucleotide. Okay, so they're defining things for us here. Okay, so you do want to circle the key terms, because later on, if it asks for a definition, you want to be able to come back and identify it. But that should be it. Don't focus on memorizing it. Okay? Don't crowd your brain with that kind of information. Because I know after this, we can maybe perhaps talk about the genetical implications, right? That's probably a little bit more important because right now it's just bombarding you with information. It kind of looks like a textbook, right? It's just giving you information. It's information only. So you should know that it's not that important. Of course, they might ask you questions on this, that in which case you would come back and then look at the passage again or get the details. But for the passage itself, the central idea is not about all of these informations. It's just about that the chemical formula is well established, and he's just explaining this, right? The first feature of our structure, which is of biological interest, is that it consists not of one chain, but of two. Okay, so it's two chains. You guys know two chains? Is he? Huh? Two chains? Is he still a thing? Okay, well, I don't care. These two chains are both coiled around a common fiber axis. Huh. Okay, so we have two chains and they're coiled around a common fiber axis. Do you know what an axis is? Okay, so, well, it's going to look something like this. And then we have these two things coiled around like this. Right? I mean, something like that. That's what it says. It has often been assumed, okay, there was a previous assumption, right? Assumed that since there was only one chain in the chemical formula, there would only be one in the structural unit. Okay, so they thought it was only one chain in the chemical formula, there would only be one. But no, we know that it's not one chain, but two chains, right? However, the density taken with the X-ray evidence suggests that very strongly that there are two. Well, that's so simple, right? So we previously thought there was one chain, but now we know that it's not one, it's two. Simple, very simple. So next part. The other biologically important feature is the manner in which the two chains are held together. Okay, so how are they held together? It's going to explain how it's held together, right? This is done by hydrogen bonds between the bases. The bases are joined together in pairs, a single base from one chain being hydrogen bonded to a single base from another. So are they kind of binded like this? Yeah? Something like that. This is like sp, 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 and then they're binded. Okay, like you can think about that, or you don't have to think about that. The important point is that only certain pairs of bases will fit into the structure. Okay, only certain pairs of bases. Okay, so I'm wondering, okay, what are the certain pairs then? One member of a pair must be a PU and the other must be a PY. Okay, so I know then that this is impossible. This is impossible and this is impossible. All others are possible, right? This is possible, this is possible, this is possible, this is possible, right? If a pair consisted of two PUs, for example, there would not be room for it, okay? Just saying the same thing, right? All right, so next part. We believe that the bases will be present almost entirely in their most probable forms. I have no idea what most probable form is. I need the passage to define it for me. If this is true, the conditions for forming hydrogen bonds are more restrictive, and the only pairs of bases possible are A, T, G, C. Huh. Okay, so now I guess it's not just that, right? It can't be like AC. It can't be GT, right? The only possible, I guess, are these, right? Is that what it's saying? A, for example, can occur on either chain, but when it does, its partner on the other chain must always be T. Well, that's pretty simple, right? That makes things infinitely simple, right? When you see a T, you see an A. When you see a G, you see a C on the other side, right? Okay. So the phosphate sugar backbone of our model is completely regular, but any sequence of the pairs of bases can fit into the structure. Okay, so regular, any sequence can fit. It follows that in a long molecule, many different permutations. Okay, permutations. So this is it's a fairly low frequency word, but I feel like you should know it. What's a permutation? Mm-hmm. So different permutations are possible, and it therefore, okay. Say, okay, permutation. My dad has 9 brothers. It's a true story. 9 brothers. So my grandma had only sons, 10 sons. What are the odds? I mean, if you're gonna have 10 children, you can have many different permutations in terms of their gender, right? In terms of their sex. But you know, that's like pretty rare, right? So something like that, right? And it therefore seems likely that the precise sequence of bases is the code which carries the genetical information. Okay. If the actual order of the bases on one of the pairs were given, one could write down the exact order of the bases on the other one. Yeah, no doubt. Why? Because if we see, for example, AAG, AAGG, something like that, then we'll see TTCC, because, no, sorry, other way around. If you see AAGG, yeah, it will be TTCC, yeah. Anyway, so something like that, because of the specific pairing. Thus, one chain is, as it were, the complement of the other. Yeah, so it's kind of like they're complementing each other with this thing, and it is this feature which suggests, okay, so how the deoxyribonucleic nucleic acid might duplicate itself. Okay, so this is how it suggests that. Okay. Wait, that's it? Didn't give us any genetical implications, right? So I guess this information itself was just the genetical implications. It just gave us a bunch of information about its structure and a little bit of significances here and there, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the passage, okay? Why would the author use the word backbone, let's say? Why would the author use the word backbone? Okay, so you need to be kind of careful, okay? So there is gonna be, so if you go to the vicinity of backbone, so let's say there's backbone here. Okay, so if you go to the vicinity, there's going to be like a dominant idea here. Dominant, I'll say this is DI, like a dominant idea. You do not want to stray away from that. A common mistake that students make is this. They see the word this, and you come up with your own interpretation, right? It's kind of similar to that, skins and horses, right? You don't want to do that. You want to stick to the dominant theme in that area, okay? So why don't we go to line 3 and 39. Let's check this out. Okay, so line 3, the backbone, okay, so it's here, right? The molecule is so the first thing it says, it's a very long chain which consists of a backbone, and then, okay, it actually defines backbone for us with this preposition which, right? Consists of a regular alternation of SMP. So regular alternation of SMP. This is what it means by backbone, at least in line 3, right? Okay, what about 39? Phosphate sugar backbone. Oh, same thing, right? So this is what you want to be focusing on. This is your answer, okay? I don't know what the answer choices are going to look like, but regardless, this is our answer, okay? So it's not long chains because it needs to be SPSP. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be SPSP. So the main structure of a chain in a DNA molecule is composed of repeating units. Yes, SPSP. So it's okay. What about C? A chain in a DNA molecule consists entirely of phosphate groups or of sugar. I don't know if it's entirely of that. Okay. Well, first of all, this and another thing that you need to know, then backbone can come into play a little bit, right? So this is the backbone, but what about its flesh? I don't know. Maybe there's some other flesh attached to it. And we know that there are stuff attached to this here based on this. So I can't say entirely of, right? Nitrogen bases form the main structural unit. So if you just look at the word backbone, it can be easy to make this mistake and say, oh, that's what backbone means, But I don't want you to think about what backbone means. Just a little bit, right? But you want to look at it in the context. So it would be B here. Right? Student claims that N bases pair randomly with each other. Okay, so this is so easy, right? So, well, I know I've read in the passage that it can't be just, they can't just pair randomly, right? It says that A needs to pair with T, G needs to pair with C, right? So I need to just find this part, like physically. I already know that it's there. Where would that be? Where is this? Wait. I just want to look starting from 23. Okay. 23 doesn't say anything about a restrictive element, but what about 25 to 26? One member must be a PU and one must be a PY. Yeah, so this one. So the answer is, what is that? D. Okay, in the second paragraph, what do the authors claim to be a feature of biological interest? Okay, well, let's go to line 12. Yeah, okay, so what was this paragraph? Okay, so what you need to know is very simple, okay? So this paragraph, what did it all boil down to? It all boiled down to this significance. What was the significance? That there are two chains, right? And this paragraph talks about like, oh, the previous assumption was that there was one, but, they're wrong. It's actually two. So I would choose something along that line. So D. Right? So 24D. Okay, the main purpose of including the information about X-ray evidence and density is to, okay, so let's go back and let's try to find that part. Okay, so here. Again, X-ray evidence, and then what does it lead to? It leads to another significance, right? It says very strongly that there are two, right? Density and X-ray. So this should be the part, right? So, okay. Again, it's going to be the same thing. Two chains, right? Okay. Carries? No, I don't know anything about that. DNA is the molecule that carries the genetic information. How do you know that? I just know that there are two chains. Present an alternate hypothesis. Well, alternate hypothesis. Actually, maybe, because the previous assumption was that there was one chain, but an alternate to that would be two chains. About the no, it's not about the nucleotide, right? It's about the structure itself, right? Nucleotide is something attached to this, right? So not not this. C, provides, so you would need, I mean, if you're unsure, you can just mark this and say, okay, I want to check what the definition of a nucleotide is, and then you would go back to the passage and realize that it's not, right? C, provide support. Yes, yeah, I mean, that was their process, right? They looked at that, and the conclusion that they came to was that it was 2 chains. For the author's claim about the number of chains, yeah, 2 chains. So C is good. Confirm the relationship. I don't know anything about relationships. I just know that there are 2 chains. Right? Okay, based on the passage, the author's statement, if a pair consisted of 2 PUs, for example, there would not be room for it. Okay, there would not be room for it. Implies. Okay, so say, for example, okay, so, I mean, I didn't really think about this when I was reading the passage, but let's think about this sentence for a second. So, if we had 2 PUs, it says what? We would not have enough room for it. It would be too big. So, I don't know, maybe it's PU's like this big and then PY is like this big? I don't know. Perhaps, maybe. Of PUs, implies that a pair of PUs would be larger than the space between a sugar and a, no, we would be comparing PUs and PYs. Purines would be larger than a pair consisting of PU and PY. Yeah, so this is what actually is the case. But they're saying, no, this would be too big. It wouldn't work. So that's what it's implying. The comparison should be between these 2 things only, right? So B is the answer. 27, exact specific complement. All right, so how does this function? So yeah, I mean, this is actually pretty opposite to what we used to have, right? Speculate or could, might, but it's not saying that. It's saying exact, specific, and they well, exact and specific, they kind of work along the same lines, I guess, right? But what about complement? I'm not so sure about this. So you need to go back to this part and you need to kind of distill the main idea that they're trying to get across here. So 47 to 49. All right, where's this? One could write down the exact order of the bases on the other one because of the specific pairing. Yeah. Where's complement? Oh, yeah, here. Thus, one chain as it were, the complement of the other. Okay, yeah. This was the part that says, okay, if you have all A's on this side, on the other hand, you would have all T's. Since we know these are the only possible combinations. Okay, I think, I mean, that's it. I don't know what else to say about that. I can't, I mean, I suck at science. I can't make any, you should, I mean, I'm saying you shouldn't. You shouldn't make any deductions based on that. So A says, confirm that nucleotide sequences are known. No, I don't know anything about this. Counter the claim. Well, it's not countering anything. Do I even know what it's countering? The only thing I know is that if I have a bunch of A's here, I am going to have a bunch of T's here. Support the claim that the phosphate sugar backbone is completely regular. Completely regular? Huh. Did someone choose C? Okay, it doesn't mean that it has to be regular though, right? Because, I mean, why, I mean, if it's all A, but at the very end you have one irregularity, I mean, still, I mean, it's not talking about regularity, it's talking about, I guess, predictability, right? Emphasize how one chain of DNA may serve as a template to be copied. Yeah, because we know what exactly the other side is going to be like based on the information of one side. Okay, which choice okay, I feel like this question is super easy. I mean, I don't know, but purines in yeast DNA. So Pu is what? A and G. A and G in yeast. Oh my God. This. Did they? Wait. Purines are A and G. Is that right? Yeah. A and G. Yeast. So is it 31 and this? Is that what they're asking me?
Yeah.
Why would they ask me that? So what's the answer? What did I just say? 31 and what? Okay, I guess that's why they asked the question. What did I say? 31 and the what?
18.7.
Okay, well, this one. So here? Okay. Well, I guess they wanted to check. What they wanted to test is if you know the definition of PUs, right? But this was way too simple, right? I mean, if you get this wrong, no, you shouldn't. Okay, you just shouldn't. Okay. What about the next one? Do the data in the table support the author's proposed pairing of bases? Okay. Does it support it? Does it support it? Okay. So what did the author say? The author said A and T go together, G and C go together. So I would need to see a similar number of A and T's, similar number of G and C's. That's the only thing that I could say, right? So let's take a look. A and T's. A and T's, okay. A and T's pretty similar, yeah. And what about these? Yeah, pretty similar, right? So I would say yes, right? So I'm going to look at A and B, right? So A says yes, because for each given organism, the percentage of A is closest to the projection of T. Yes, that's right. Percentage of G is closest to C. Yes, there we go. That's it, right? Other ones get it wrong. This is the pair that we need, right? According to the table, which of the following pairs of base percentages in sea urchins? Sea urchin. Okay, sea urchin. Let's go back to sea urchin. And for the previous question, sea urchin I mean, sea urchin, it's here, right? So they're similar, right? Wait, what was the number?
30.
No, okay, 32.8 and 32.1, 17.7 and 17.3. Oh, why is this asking? What is this question? What is this passage? Wait, I forgot about this for a while. Well, you know, it's okay. It's pretty simple, right? Okay, based on the table, is the percentage of A in each organism's DNA the same or does it vary? And which statement made by the authors is most consistent with that data? Okay, so A in each organism's DNA, the same or does it vary? And then we need to find the part that supports that statement, right? So, all right, so let's take a look. A, just this. I think it varies. Pretty obvious. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back. C and D, so it's gonna be like this. And then, okay, so I feel like, I mean, I have A here, so it feels like it might be this. So I just want to look at this one first, okay? So line 36 to 38. A, for example, no. Okay, so it says for example, so I'm not going to read it. Right? I mean, examples are not going to do me any good. What's the other one? 41 to 45. It follows that in a long molecule, many permutations are possible and therefore seems likely that the precise sequence in which, yeah. So carries the genetical information since it all varies. So this is good, right? So I'm going to go with that one. All right, this, I guess, is like a this passage, I guess, is to like kill white people. I mean, like how, I don't know how else you're going to get these questions wrong, these graph questions. Let's go to the first passage for a second, okay? So this passage is another example of a passage that you should read fairly quickly. And you should be able to answer the questions accurately, okay? So answering the questions accurately, not gonna be enough on a real test. Okay, so a lot of you guys still, actually most of you guys still run out of time. So that should be our focus, okay? So how the web affects memory, okay? So, I mean, I can make a wild guess and say it has a negative, so I mean, it can either have a negative impact or it can have a positive impact, right? But I feel like it's going to be a negative impact because, I don't know, because I'm old. Because I'm old school, I just think it might negatively affect it. So let's just decide that it's going to be negative, okay? I mean, if I'm wrong, then I'm going to remember it better. So, okay, it's probably going to be a negative impact, and it's going to explain that, and then probably they're going to mention a study, right? Probably they're going to do like an experiment. Or if not, then I'll be shocked and I'll remember it, right? Okay, so let's take a look. So search engines have changed the way, okay, so it's like a traditional introduction. So whatever, right? My focus is here, right? How does it affect the brain? I don't really care about this introductory statement. But Harvard professor of psychology, D.W.'s recent research proves that, okay, here we go. Okay, so this is pretty simple now. Things are pretty simplified. We have a study, and then this is going to have a clean-cut conclusion, I guess, right? So what does it say? Websites and internet are changing much more than technology itself. Okay, so they're changing much more. Okay, so what is it also changing? Probably memory. That's what they're going to say. They're changing the way our memories function. Okay, so this is trash. I thought they were going to answer it. They didn't answer me, right? How does it change memory though? It didn't explain, right? So perhaps it's more complicated than I expected. The answer to how the web affects memory. Why? Because, I mean, if it were clean cut, if it said it negatively affects it, if I were writing this article, I would just say it right away, you know, just to keep the reader's attention and then just back it up with my evidence. But he's not doing that, right? Okay, so maybe it's a little bit more nuanced, okay? So let's take a look. Latest study, blah, 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 shows that when people have access to search engines, they remember fewer facts and less information because, okay, so fewer facts and less information. Okay, but does that mean they have bad memory? No, I don't think so. They just choose, maybe they can choose to remember just a few things, right? Because they know they can rely on search as a readily available shortcut. Okay, so because of people's reliance on it, right? W, the senior author of the study, believes the new findings show that the internet becomes part of a transactive memory source. Okay, so here's actually a term that I need to define, right? What's a transactive memory source? A method by which our brains compartmentalize information. Okay, so this is a method how they do it. Okay, but still, that's not enough. I need this guy to elaborate on this. First hypothesized by W, transactive memory exists in many forms. Okay, so many forms, as when a husband relies on his wife to remember a relative's birthday. Okay, so relies is the key, right? So that's transactive memory. So it's not memorizing the fact itself, but memorizing a source, just, you know, recognizing a source, leveraging the source, that kind of thing, right? If it is this whole network of memory where you don't have to remember everything. So not everything, you just have to remember who knows it. I think I get the gist now. Okay, I think I can move on, right? So you just need to know who knows it. Is that why you guys don't memorize grammar? Because I always answer your questions? No, I don't always answer your questions. Like sometimes I just don't, but is that why you guys don't memorize it? Like that guy always tells me, that guy, that guy, that guy, he knows some grammar rules, so I guess I'm not going to memorize it. Is that why? Okay. Now computers and technology as well are becoming virtual extensions. Okay, so that sounds good. Okay, so this was all explaining transactive memory source, right? So that's like the first thing that we get from this study. So W study, the big thing was something called TMS. And TMS is relying on something, right? It's not memorizing a fact or the thing itself, but it's the source, right? So it's pretty simple. The idea validates habits already forming in our daily lives. Okay, validates habits. What does this mean? I don't know. I don't know what it means to validate habits. Cell phones have become the primary location for phone numbers. Oh, okay. So now with this example, I think I get it, right? So instead of memorizing, what is that? Instead of memorizing phone numbers, we just have our cell phone. We just remember where our cell phone is, right? GPS device. Did you guys ever memorize phone numbers in your life? Okay, except like your mom's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Whose?
My friend, my grandma.
Why?
Why? Because she's part of my family, you know?
Do you know her social security number?
No.
Well, I mean, since you say the reason is, okay, here's my reason. You said because she's my family, okay? So if she is your family, then you should know her other numbers too, by the same reasoning, because you said that's the reason. Okay, I won't do it, okay? GPS devices and cars remove the need to memorize directions. What's your grandma's phone number?
Why am I supposed to say that?
Just wanted to test. Okay, GPS devices and cars remove the need to memorize directions. Okay, so same example. Points out that we never have to stretch our memories too far to remember the name of an obscure movie. Okay, so these are all examples, right? We just type our questions into Google, we become part of the internet. So this part you should be skimming real fast. Okay, so because we already get it. So this is just talking about our habits, right? Yeah, this is all already ingrained in our lives. Right? Working with researchers, her name is BS and JL. Do you guys know Jeremy Lin?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so BS and JL of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, W conducted, okay, so now we have a new experiment, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna say, so BS, JL, okay, so what kind of study did they do? Demonstrate the phenomenon using various forms of memory recall to test reliance on computers. That's what they wanted to test, right? How much do people rely on computers, I guess, or it might be something else. So what's the experiment? Terms like Yahoo, Google, after being asked the blah 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 blah. Okay, so why don't we not read this? I mean, you can skim. You should, if you choose to read this, you should be skimming, right? You should be in a hurry. You should be pretty impatient, and you would want to see the result. You would want to see the result and the significance. You wouldn't want to be reading, oh, Yahoo, I think I've heard of that. Oh yeah, I know Google. I have it, I go on it often. No, you don't want to be doing that, okay? So just go down, okay? Subsequent memory testing, participants who were told their work would not be saved were best at recalling, okay, so this is the result, I guess, right? Their work would not be saved, were best at recalling the statements, yeah. So if you knew that you did not have a source, I already know what they're testing because of the information that was mentioned before, right? They're testing their reliance on computers, right? Participant typed into computer statements they were told would be saved. If they were told it would be saved, participants proved better to recall the folder locations than the statements. There you go. So this confirms TMS, right? Transactive memory source. W concedes. Okay, so he says concedes, so this is obviously a concession, right? So obviously he's going to, I guess, raise like potential objections that his opponents can make and say, yeah, maybe that's right. Remain about whether dependence on, questions remain about whether dependence on computers will affect memories negatively. Yeah, so this is what I said in the beginning, right? So we still don't know if this is negative or positive. Nobody knows. Okay, nobody knows, so shut up. I think I know, right? I think I know that you don't know, right? Students who have trouble remembering distinct facts, for example, may struggle to employ those facts in critical thinking. Okay, so this is an example. So just to argue with this guy saying, but he believes that the situation overall is beneficial. Okay, so this is W's position. W's position is that it's beneficial. It's not bad. Likening dependence on computers to dependence on a mechanical hand or other prosthetic device. And even though we may not be taxing our memories to recall, we're still using them to consider where the facts are located and how to access them. I think we can do this. We're still using, right? We're still using our memories, right? We're not, instead of memorizing my grandma's phone number, I could just remember where my phone is, right? No offense, just, okay? We still have to remember things, W explains. We're just remembering a different range of things. Okay, so different range. Believes a study will lead to further research. Okay, so further research. This is not saying it's it's not an incomplete paragraph, by the way, right? Just because it says further research. It's saying it will lead to further research. Like we will look more into this. And looks forward to tracing the extent of human interdependence with the computer world, pinpointing the movable dividing line between us and our computers and cyber networks. Okay. So that's it, right? So there's not much information. So what did these people confirm? They just confirmed TMS's result, right? I mean, not W's thing, right? They also said, hey, they're more likely to remember the file locations. And then after that, what does it say? It said we still have questions regarding this. We still have questions. We don't know if it's going to be negative or positive, right? We don't know if it's negative or positive, but still, he thinks it's positive. W thinks it's positive, right? So this is pretty much the passage itself, right? So the key idea that you, of course, need to know is this, and they, of course, will ask you about this, right? Why do you think they gave you so many examples, by the way? I think they're going to ask you, I mean, I've looked at the questions, but, you know, they will ask you about, they will ask you to give an example about a transactive memory source or something like that, right? So let's take a look at the questions. Actually, yeah, so I was talking about this question. Okay, who chose A here? B? C? C? Are you sure? C? D? Okay, so what's a transactive memory source? Define it for me.
So, methodology of organizing.
Nope.
Mentalized information.
Yes, it is compartmentalizing information, but I mean, it doesn't capture the essence, like, because we need to, so compartmentalize. Will that help us choose an answer? No. So the word that we got was this, right? Relying on something else, right? It's not remembering the thing itself, but it's indirectly remembering by remembering something that remembers that thing itself, right? Okay, so that's why it's B, right? Do you guys do this? Do you guys write down all your passwords?
No.
Yes.
Who does that? Who doesn't do that? And do you guys just save it on Chrome or whatever?
No, I actually memorize it.
You actually memorize it.
Using one password for every account.
Okay, you're done soon. Soon you're done. Okay, let's take a look at C and D though. Okay, library database. Well, do you think that helps users locate specific books? It's not about locating, right? It's not about locating. You didn't know this to begin with, right? It's not something that you should remember to begin with. Why would you know that? Right? You know what I'm saying, right? D, a website that helps users plan and make travel. Okay, this is not memorizing anything also, right? So it's B. So this is something that you should memorize, right? But you don't memorize it. Rather, there's a list. So you just need to know where that list is, right? It's stored here. This information is stored here. Where do you guys write down your passwords then? I mean, I'm not going to ask for it, but just curious. Do you like physically write it down, or do you have like do you have it in your email account? Do you have it in Google Drive? Like what? Huh? iPhone? Oh, so just like an iPhone memo? Okay.
There's an application for that.
Oh, there's an application for that?
Yeah, for saving your passwords.
But why would you use that when you're memorizing your grandma's phone number? There's an app for that. It's called a phone. There's an app for memorizing your grandma's phone number.
Yeah, but I'd rather not save it.
You'd rather not save your grandma's number?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just got used to just typing the keypad, zero.
Also, you'd rather be less efficient than efficient?
Oh, come on, I'm an old-fashioned man.
You're not.
What?
You said there's an app for that. That's not an old-fashioned man. Okay. All right, so I'll just tell you the answers for this one then, I guess. Okay, so actually, before I tell you the answers, was there a question that was tricky here? I thought that question, I mean, not a lot of you got it wrong, but usually when people get it wrong, it's usually this question on this passage. D for 11. D for 12. D for 13. And we did this. 15, B. 16, C. A, 18A. C. D. This one, this passage is very unorthodox, and it got deleted along with the no man likes to acknowledge that passage, so it doesn't exist anymore. But still, we can take a look at this, okay? Space mining, the next gold rush. So this is, see, this is kind of weird because it's not strictly a science passage, and it's not even science, and it's a dual passage also, right? So it's really weird. They don't really do this nowadays, right? So they're becoming more science heavy, the test itself, and more science dual passages show up compared to the past. Okay, the next gold rush, taming the final frontier. Okay. Let's take a look. Follow the money and you will end up in space. This is the message from a first of its kind forum on mining beyond Earth. Okay, so that's what these people said, right? Is that what the author said? No, it's what people at this forum said, right? Get it? Okay, so they think space is lucrative. That's what they think, right? So convened in Sydney by the blah blah blah, the event brought tougher together mining companies, robotics experts, lunar scientists, and government agencies that are all working to make space mining a reality. Okay, so they were focused on space mining. The forum comes hot on the heels of the 2012 unveiling of 2 private asteroid mining firms. Okay, comes hot on the heels. What does it mean? What does this mean? Okay, if we have an idiom that we don't know, what should we do? Read, yes. Read on and supplement our understanding. Okay. Potentially, we don't even need to know this, but depending on what's said next. Okay. Planetary Resources of Washington says it will launch its first prospecting telescopes in 2 years. Okay, so these say telescopes. While Deep Space Industries of Virginia hopes to be harvesting metals from asteroids by 2020. Are they? Okay, look this up. No, I'm just kidding. Another commercial venture that sprung up in 2012, Golden Spike of Colorado, will be offering trips to the moon, including to potential lunar miners. Okay, so, right. So, what is this, like, if you're reading this information, I mean, I guess you couldn't do this. Like, at first, I was underlining all this, like this, but you know, what is this all doing? It's just talking about the future possibilities. It's saying, you know, they're working on these projects, right? They're all working on these projects. So I guess that's the point, right? They're all working on these space mining projects or something like that. Okay, so next paragraph, it says, within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly demands. Okay, so this is also a guess on the writer's part now. So there are earthly demands for precious metals, platinum and gold. Oh, okay. So I guess they can find this in space. And the rare earth elements vital for personal electronics, such as Y and L. Okay, so there are demands in Earth, and space mining could potentially help this. But like the gold rush pioneers who transformed the Western United States, first space miners won't just enrich themselves. Okay, so won't enrich themselves, then what? They also hope to build an off-planet economy. Okay, so now I think this I need to take account of. Free of any bonds with Earth. Okay, so that's what an off-planet economy means. It's unrelated to Earth. No correlation to Earth, right? in which the materials extracted and processed from the moon and asteroids are delivered for space-based projects, right? So they just want to work independent of Earth, right? They don't want to be related to Earth. They want to work on other space-based projects and so on, right? In this scenario, water mined from other worlds could become the most desirable commodity. Okay, then it's talking about water now, right? So if, what is this scenario in that, what was the wording? Off-planet economy, right? So if they were independent of Earth and they had their own economy, then water would become the most desired commodity. In the desert, what's worth more, a kilogram of gold or a kilogram of water? I would say gold. Yeah, I would, huh? No, that's unrelated to the passage. I mean, okay, you're in the desert. Would you get a kilogram of gold or a kilogram of water? I mean, this question is too simple. Like, you need more situations. I mean, if you already have water or if you're in a pretty good condition, unless you're really dying, you know, I would go for gold, wouldn't you? KZ in New York, gold is useless. Water will let you live. Okay. Okay. Water ice from the moon's poles could be sent to astronauts. Okay, so you know these are all talking about the possibilities, right? Could be sent to astronauts on the International Space Station for drinking or as a radiation shield. Okay, so it's all talking about water's usages. Splitting water into oxygen makes spacecraft fuel, so ice-rich asteroids could become interplanetary refueling stations. Okay, so companies are eyeing this, which could be used in 3D printers. Others want to concrete for landing. Okay, so this passage itself is very, I don't know, I feel like it's a waste of time. Not for SAT purposes. I feel like someone who wrote this, I mean, it's just like real daydreaming, right? It's all talking about the future possibilities, right? It's saying like, oh, you know, these people, they want to go in space mine. That's the first thing he said, right? They want to go space mine, and if they do that, they want to make an off-planet economy. And if they make a off-planet economy, water would be the most precious thing. And then that's it. And he's talking about a bunch of hypothetical scenarios, right? And future possibilities. We don't even know how likely they are to happen, right? Okay, so that's the first passage, right? Second one, the motivation for deep space travel is shifting from discovery to economics. So discovery to economics, I think we sense that in passage 1 because it said, you know, it's lucrative, you know, space mining is lucrative. The past year has seen a flurry of proposals aimed at bringing celestial riches down to Earth. No doubt this will make a few billionaires even wealthier, but we all stand to gain. Okay, so this is what he wants to say. The mineral bounty and spin-off technology could enrich us all. Okay, so enrich us all. So it could benefit not just the rich people, but also all of us. So this is something that passage 1 does not mention, right? So this is something that's not mentioned in passage 1, yeah. But before the miners start firing up their rockets, we should pause for thoughts. Okay, so we should think about something. First glance, space mining seems to sidestep most environmental concerns. Okay, so this one offers a different perspective, right? I mean, passage 1 was just excited about the possibilities, talking about the scenarios and stuff, but this one, it's more thoughtful, I guess. It's saying, first glance, space mining seems to sidestep most environmental concerns. Okay, so there is no life on asteroids and thus no habitats to trash. Okay, so that's what it might look like. right? From the outside, it might look like that, right? We can't really harm it, right? There's no habitat, but its consequences, both here, blah, 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 merit careful consideration. So we do need to be careful, right? If you think about it. On first glance, though, if you look at it from the outside, what is it going to look like? It's going to look like, you know, we don't need to care, right? We can do whatever we want. But actually, we need to care. That's what he's saying. Part of this is about principles. Okay, so let's find out what those principles are. Some will argue that the space magnificent desolation is not ours to despoil, just as, okay, so we shouldn't despoil space, just as they argue our own planet's poles should remain pristine. Others will suggest, okay, so these are all different points of views. Others will suggest that glutting ourselves on space's riches is not an acceptable alternative to developing more sustainable ways of earthly life. Okay, so it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable alternative. That's what they're saying. History suggests that those will be hard lines to hold, and it may be difficult to persuade the public that such barren environments are worth preserving. So, you know, people are going to be like, you know, no one cares about that barren space. No one cares about Mars. Trash Mars, right? That's what people are going to say, is what history says. After all, they exist in vast abundance, and even fewer people will experience them. Okay, it's just supporting this, right? Okay, there's also the emerging off-world economy. Okay, so this is also something that's mentioned in passage 1. So this is a common topic. The resources that are valuable in orbit and beyond may be very different to those we prize on Earth. Okay, different. Yes, we did talk about this in passage 1 also. Water, right? Questions of their stewardship have barely been broached, and the relevant legal and regulatory framework is fragmentary. Fragmentary meaning it's not complete, right? It's still in the works, but he says to put it mildly, right? So we don't have all the legal work done, right? Space miners, like their early counterparts, are often reluctant to engage with such questions. Okay, so we don't really talk about these questions. So this passage is more focusing on the ethical stuff, right? Okay. One speaker at last week's blah, blah, blah concluded with the plea that regulation should be avoided. Okay, so this person says this. But okay, so that's an opponent's view, and this is the author's counter-argument. But miners have much to gain from a broad agreement. Broad agreement will lead to a gain. That's the counter-argument on the profit exploitation of space. Without consensus, so it's saying consensus is necessary. Claims will be disputed. So unless we want disputes, we need consensus, in other words. That's what it's saying. Investments risky and the gains made insecure. It is in all of our long-term interest to seek one out. Okay, so we need to seek consensus. Okay. So, I want you guys to focus a little. Okay, so now that we've covered, a lot of reading, I want you guys to focus more on writing. So, especially if you're getting more than 5 or 6 wrong, okay? If you're getting more than 5 or 6 wrong, especially if you're getting more than 10 wrong, you need to review the grammar rules before you solve the questions again. Okay? Don't just blindly solve questions. Don't just grind questions. Okay? Good? Okay. So homework is the next part, right? The next exercises, okay? If you have any questions, you can stay behind. If you don't, you can leave your bag, go have lunch.